Today on the podcast, Dr. Darrell Floyd. Dr. Floyd is the superintendent of Blue Ridge ISD in North Texas, where he's making a real difference by building strong cultures, strengthening relationships, and mentoring the next generation of school leaders. His leadership has been recognized as a Regional Superintendent of the Year, and he's guided multiple campuses to become award-winning schools. Today, we'll explore how to rebuild culture in schools, why relationships are the foundation of lasting change, and practical strategies principals and superintendents can use to retain teachers and build thriving campuses. By the end of this episode, you'll walk away with proven insights to help you strengthen your leadership and positively impact your school community. Welcome to Transformational Educators, where we help school leaders create lasting change by sharing powerful, real-world stories of servant leadership and practical strategies for transformation. I'm your host, Matthew Flippen, president of Graceland University, where we equip school leaders to make a lasting impact. I'm really excited to get time with you, Darrell, to hear about how you've built winning cultures in some of the places you've been, but specifically I know we're going to focus on one high school. One of the things I really admire about you, having looked up your background and knowing that you've served in education for so long, is that you continue to just build great relationships everywhere you go. Your heart for kids and for those that are in hard places shows through in your work. And I know that you've been celebrated as a region superintendent of the year, and I know of tons of other accolades as well. But I'm just really excited that you are our first guest today.
Well, it's an honor to be your first guest. I know you've done great work in the past as well for youth, and so I certainly commend you for that, and I'm happy to be your first guest.
Yeah, absolutely, Darrell. Yeah, it's a pleasure, and I can tell just from the little time that we've had together, even this morning, the insights and the care that you have for the communities that you serve. So let's go back to when you were a principal.
Okay.
And tell us about the school. Give us the setting for it. What was it like when you first got there?
All right. Very good. So this is my 40th year in public education. And
Doesn't show.
Of that, thank you. Of that, this is my 29th year as superintendent of schools. And I've done a little bit of everything in public education. Started out in West Texas as a teacher, coach, finished my master's after I got my bachelor's at Texas Tech, Reckham. Then got my master's at UT Permian Basin, and then was off on my trek across the state of Texas to a number of different campus level administrative positions, and then into the superintendency. So as I look back on my career, I guess the last time I was campus principal would have been around 1997, somewhere in there. But as I think back on some of the important topics that I would give advice to for up-and-comers, and that's really one of the reasons I do my adjunct work with universities, is it's my opportunity to give back to the profession.
Yes.
And kind of mentor the up-and-coming principals and superintendents and those that are in doctoral programs as well. So
now tell me again, where were you when you were that high school principal?
Okay, so after I finished my master's out in Odessa, then I was assistant principal at University Middle School in Waco. Okay. Then I was junior high principal at Paul Pewitt, which is a consolidated district over by Mount Pleasant, Texas. Omaha, Naples are the two communities.
Okay.
Then I did two high school principalships, one in Queen City ISD, just south of Texarkana, and then a second high school principalship in Castleberry ISD in the northwest corner of Fort Worth, and then I got into the superintendency.
Okay. So take us, I know you have a story that you wanted to share later. Let's talk about that campus.
Okay.
What was that campus? What was it like when you got there?
Okay. That was Queen City High School, and I was started out as principal there in 1992. And that campus needed some transformational leadership to help improve the culture and the climate and the morale, and basically bring everybody together, because it had been a little bit fragmented. And so
what did you see when you first got there that clued you into that?
I could see the way the students interacted with each other, with the way they interacted with the faculty and staff, and I could see immediately that a lot of that needed some improvement. So I went about the business of working hard on developing positive relationships with the students and their parents and the community members and faculty and staff, so that we could focus on the 3 R's, rigor, relevance, and relationships. And I know that Dr. Bill Daggett has made a whole career out of centering his work around those 3 R's, but I'm a very strong proponent of that. And I've utilized that in every position I've been in since.
Sure.
So and of those 3 R's, I would say that the relationship piece is the most important one, because until you develop that very positive student-adult relationship, adult-to-adult relationship, then it's hard to get things done. But once you do establish that positive relationship, then you can get all kinds of positive things done that will benefit students and the community and the school district as a whole.
Now, sometimes when you walk into a new situation, there's been hurt that has caused relationships to be broken. There's often some mistrust among teachers and new administrators. Did you face some of that?
Yep. The way I got at it is to designate lead teachers for each department, English, Math, Science, Social Studies, and I relied heavily on those lead teachers to help guide me through what we were doing. And one of the stories I was sharing with you earlier is that, here I am, this young high school principal. A lot of the teachers could have been my parents or grandparents.
Okay.
And so I had a lead social studies teacher that could have been my grandmother. And I'm running around with my hair on fire 100 miles an hour, and eventually she comes into my office and shuts the door and says, when you're good, you're really good, but when you're not, you're not. And then she proceeded to tell me how she thought I needed to just tap the brakes a little bit.
Okay.
Not work at such a frantic pace that it caused everybody else to be frantic, and we could get at this a different way and a better way. And I have remembered that for my entire career, I can't tell you the number of times I've told that story, because it resonated with me that even when you are trying to do the right things and building culture and climate, morale, and all of that, and relationships, that it still is beneficial for you as a campus principal or a leader to have someone that can check you. And if you've developed that positive relationship well enough, then it gives them comfort to come in and shut the door and say, look, we might want to do things differently.
Right, because you had known her how long at that point?
Less than a year.
Less than a year. But she felt she trusted you enough that you'd receive the feedback.
Yep. And I've appreciated that then, and I appreciate it today.
A year later. So how did serving your people, what did that look like in that first year to build trust?
My advice to young principals is to find a way to sit down with everybody one-on-one.
Okay.
And I made a point to do that with teachers, administrators, teachers, and faculty and staff members very early on. Bring them in, sit them down, have them tell me about themselves. I do the same thing. We share some things that are important to us, and then they talk to me about what they see as the strengths of that campus, the weaknesses of that campus, and then looking back on it 12 months from now, what would they like to see in the way of improvements?
Okay.
And maybe a suggestion on how we can get at that. Now, some of them will talk about petty things, and others will talk about grandiose ideas. But all that's beneficial for a new campus principal, I think.
Absolutely, to take time to listen to everyone. Yeah, I definitely believe that being known, that we all have a desire to be known. And for a leader to take the time to know us, it goes a long ways in building emotional capacity, relationship capacity. Because ultimately, you're going to ask them to do something new, to change something.
Yep.
And they've got to trust that you're doing that, you're making that ask for their good and for the good of the children in the.
Yeah, and another suggestion I would give to beginning principals or principals that are working their way through their principalship career is that it's okay to say I don't know when I don't know. I think some people have a mindset of when they get the principal job, they're just supposed to miraculously know all the answers. Well, that's not the case. I've been at this for 40 years, and I certainly don't know all the answers. I barely know the questions, But it's okay to say I don't know when you don't know.
Yes.
But then you follow that up with, but I'll find out and get back with you.
Yes.
And so what I suggest to students that I teach adjunct for in principalship and superintendent certification programs are, if you are not highly structured and organized and a good time manager, if you're down at the end of the hall and Miss Jones asks you a question you don't know the answer to and you say, I don't know, but I'll find out, and then you get back to your office and get tied up with other things and forget to research that and get back with Miss Jones, every time you do that, it chips away at your credibility. So you got to be a good time manager, very structured, very organized, so that you remember to research that and then get back with Miss Jones with that answer.
Yes.
And then when you do that, it builds your credibility as a leader.
Absolutely. You've got to be trustworthy.
Yep.
Trust is such a hard thing to build, but it is easy to destroy.
Very easy. Easier to destroy than to earn.
To build. Exactly right. So tell us a couple of the transformational strategies that you implemented at that campus and what the outcome was.
Yeah, and these are some strategies that I use not only in the principalship but even today in the superintendency. And I mentioned the 3 R's of rigor, relevance, and relationships. I mentioned that of the 3, relationships I think is the most important one. But the rigor piece is setting that bar high enough that it stretches students to achieve at levels they didn't even realize they could achieve themselves.
Right.
And then that relevance piece is answering the age-old question, why do I need to learn this and how am I ever going to use it later on? Well, that's our job as educators, to explain to students why they're learning this now, but more importantly, how learning it is going to benefit them later on. So to extrapolate that a little bit further, in addition to the 3 R's, I've always tried to incorporate the 4 C's.
Okay.
And all this is research-based. I won't bore you with that part, but suffice it to say that it is. And these are the skills, abilities, and attributes that we know that we want our own kids to possess before they leave high school.
Sure.
And if it's good enough for our kids, then we need to be imparting that to every one of our students. We want them to have good communication skills, good collaboration skills, to be able to communicate what they want to and need to be able to work with others, whether it be small groups or teams or large groups. So communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. The critical thinking piece is being able to kind of know that there are more than one way generally to get at solving a problem. But you've got to be able to communicate and collaborate with others to think critically to solve that problem and not just throw your hands up and say, I don't know the answer, I can't do this.
Sure.
You work with others to work through to fruition. And then the last one is creativity, and that is thinking outside the box. And there are 2 different kinds of people. One are very linear and others are very creative.
Sure.
And we all have strengths and weaknesses in each of those areas. But if you're developing and building teams, it's ideal if you can have some of each. Some structured folks and some creative folks, and that builds a very positive, beneficial team.
Even though there might be some friction between the highly organized and the highly creative, but absolutely.
But each can benefit from the other.
Each benefits. So what were some of the results you saw as you implemented those?
We were able to transform that campus to a point where I would say the climate and morale and the culture went from about a 2 to about a 9. And I was always very proud of that.
Wow.
And I think if you talk to some of the people that were on that campus then, they would say the same thing. We had a very positive trajectory on all of those areas. And we ended up being an award-winning campus. Back then we had, before your time probably, but we had TSAS as the kind of the accolades for campuses, and we were able to knock the top out of that.
Wow.
And we were very proud of what our students had accomplished, but it was all due to what we had created there in the way of doing the right things for students.
Wow. I think about a two culture that was, as you said, having probably some turnover issues, some strife, unhappy teachers don't always produce happy students, right? It's normally
That's right.
the opposite. And so getting that to a 9, that must have impacted your turnover, your recruiting.
Yep.
And then translated into student performance.
Absolutely. And it's even more important to develop that positive culture so that we can retain the ones that we want to retain, the good ones.
Right.
But then we also have, as you are working on a daily basis, is to grow our own teachers.
Yes, yeah, it's really true. We really believe that the people in the building that have demonstrated the heart and grit, the paraprofessionals, support staff, if given the opportunity to rise up into teacher roles, really will be outstanding. Because, when we survey a room of paraprofessionals and we ask, how many of you are incredible at math? We don't get a lot of hands raised. But if I say, how many of you can build a relationship with any child? They all confidently raise their hands. Well, that is a testament to, because if you can build relationships as the foundation, then of course you can get performance out of your kids. But campus culture is the same. So if a campus leader can't build relationships or isn't good at relationships with their staff, then they never really end up with a culture that's going to thrive. And that's really our hope in sharing your testimony to start with relationships. Yeah, there's 3 R's and yeah, there's 4 C's, but relationships is number 1. Build
Absolutely.
trusting relationships.
Yeah. And I think there are I've seen 2 different kinds of campus principals. There are those that can go too far on one side of they're the backslappers and the high-fivers and attaboys, and then when you get down to the substance, there's not much to that. And then on the other hand, there are people that are not very good at building relationships but are good at academics or management or whatever, but neither one of those far ends of the spectrum are going to be solely successful. You've got to have a mix of the two. You've got to build those positive relationships, but then when it's time to get down to the work on academics, you've got to go to work on that as well. And if you've developed that positive relationship, then it's a little easier to work on the difficult issues like that.
Absolutely. But that has to come with accountability, because if I don't ever hold someone accountable to the standard we've all agreed to, then the people that are meeting the standard start to mistrust me.
Yep.
And so I erode my relationships if I don't ultimately bring accountability. I think that's what you're saying.
And if you haven't developed that positive relationship and that culture and climate and morale, then people are going to fly out of there. And then here we go with just continuing retention issue and teacher turnover.
That is so true. That is so true. But Darrell, I really appreciate you sharing your insights. There is so much wisdom in this, and I know if we had more time, thankfully you are teaching at the college level and all the way up to the doctorate level. Mm-hmm. So I just applaud you for continuing to serve.
Thank you very much. Feel free to put my contact information in there. Absolutely. And I'm happy to help anybody at any time.
Fantastic. If today's conversation gave you fresh insight or inspired you to lead with purpose, please follow the show and tell a friend. It helps us reach more educators who want to make a difference. For more stories, resources, and tools to support your leadership journey, visit graceland.edu. Until next time, keep leading with courage and care. If you want to keep learning about transformational strategies in education, click the next video.